What is up, everybody, and welcome back once again to the channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing my post Week 15 NFL Power Rankings 2022. So without further ado, let's begin after a wild week of NFL football. And shout out to the Oregon beating the Gators in their bowl game. That was a complete beatdown. But without further ado, let's begin. Coming in at number 32, I have the Texans. They gave another really tough fight to a tough, obviously a very good team, but they came up short there with that Davis Mills fumble. Coming in at number 31, I have the Bears. Bears hung in there with the Eagles, ultimately lost. That's just the name of the game with these two bottom teams, the Bears and the Texans. It's just, they just keep losing. The Cardinals coming in at number 30. It's very simple after this year. Fire Cliff Kingsbury, fire general manager Keim, and just clean house on the defense, and maybe keep a lot of the guys on offense. But yeah, this team just needs a complete overhaul going into next year. This is clearly not working. And I've been watching the Hard Knocks, and I get guys like Buda Baker, guys like Kingsbury, they want to win. They're competitors, but the thing is, losers will always talk about how much they hate to lose. But if they keep losing, it doesn't matter. And the results are just not there right now. And this is not a roster that should be 4-10 through 14 games. Coming in at number 29, I have the Broncos, who got the win with quarterback Brett Rippon against the Cardinals. Coming in at number 28, I have the Colts. Look, I'll get more into the comeback once I get to the Vikings, but these guys just blew the biggest lead in NFL history. Just gave up the biggest comeback in NFL history mathematically. They were up 33-0 in the third quarter. I don't know how you can go back to work the next day and finish out the rest of the season, but it's what they got to do. Coming in at number 27, I have the Falcons. Desmond Ridder in his first start did not look very good, if we're being quite frank, but that's to be expected. I mean, Ridder was a fourth-round pick, project quarterback, and to throw him into the fire like this against a good defense like that, I mean, I wasn't expecting anything that impressive from Desmond Ridder. Coming in at number 26, I have the Rams. Baker Mayfield, in his first start, lost to the Packers. Obviously, he doesn't get the credit for the start in last week's game, but tough loss. Not a tough loss, but for the Rams. But they just got outdone in this game. Coming in at number 25, I have the Saints. As I mentioned earlier, are able to get the win over the Falcons. They're hanging around in that NFC South race. Coming in at number 24, I have the Panthers. They lost to the Steelers. They're still a game back from the Bucks, but have tiebreaker. Panthers still control their own destiny. Coming in at number 23, I have the Raiders that won off of that wacky final play of the game, where I don't know what Jacoby Myers was doing. Chandler Jones got it, ran it all the way back for a touchdown. Wow, that ending was just nuts. But I think the Raiders are still done. I don't see them getting into the playoffs. Their season-ending loss, I feel, was against the Rams. If they would have won that game, right now there'd be a conversation, because they would be 7-7, just one game back. But 6-8, they're done. Coming in at number 22, I have the Buccaneers. The offense looked really good in the first half of that game. They're able to get the motion in going that Brady has been notorious for doing, but overall they just can't seem to sustain it for a whole game, and their defense had no answer for the Bengals. Coming in at number 21, I have the Steelers. They got the win over the Panthers. Steelers are done though. But they are still trying to win here for pride, and try and maybe finish with a winning record and keep it from being Mike Tomlin's first season as first losing season as a head coach. Coming in at number 20, I have the Browns. Similar situation as the Steelers and the Raiders. They're pretty much done, but they got a nice moral victory against their divisional rival in Deshaun Watson's first home game. Coming in at number 19, I have the Packers. Packers are another team that, they got a nice win. Monday Night Football in Lambeau, they always want to win those. But they're not clinched out. None of these teams are clinched out, but they need to win out, and they need to hope for a lot of other things to happen. So a lot of these teams are just done. Seahawks, they still have hope coming in at number 18. You know, they lost to the Niners, but they were able to keep it close at least. But yeah, the Seahawks are still in it for the wild card spot, but they just seem to be spiraling at this point. Coming in at number 17, I have the Titans, who were able to shut down the Chargers offense throughout most of that game, but there in the end, Justin Herbert made some magic happen, and they ultimately lost. The Titans have now lost 4 in a row. Coming in at number 16, I have the Jaguars. I get the Titans are still first place in that division, but Jaguars beat them when they played just the other week, and the Jaguars are hitting some momentum right now, beating the Cowboys in an impressive overtime victory. Trevor Lawrence has arrived. Coming in at number 15, I have the Commanders, who had a very tough loss Sunday night against the Giants. That game was terribly officiated. There was like 3 or 4 really bad calls in that game against the Commanders that really cost them that game. But yeah, and now there's some controversy again now, thinking maybe they should put Carson Wentz back in at quarterback, but Rivera says he's sticking with Heineke for this week. Coming in at number 14, I have the Jets. You know, it's this simple. Get Mike White back at quarterback as soon as possible if they want to have a chance to make the playoffs. Coming in at number 13, I have the Lions, who were able to get the win over the Jets. Lions defense stepped up in that game. Coming in at number 12, I have the Patriots. You know, that was a very tough loss. I don't think their season's over, but they really needed that game because their last 3 games are going to be very tough, and now they're in a position where, sure, if they win their last 3, it means they made it into the playoffs most likely. But the problem is they play at the Bengals, they play the Dolphins, and then they play at the Bills. Coming in at number 11, I have the Ravens. As I mentioned earlier, they lost to the Browns with Tyler Huntley. They need Lamar Jackson back, but even then, you know, they just seem to be a little bit dysfunctional offensively, and Harbaugh's clock management is not very good. Coming in at number 10, I have the Giants. Were able to get the win over the Commanders. Giants, you know, got back on track with that win. You know, the Giants are going to make the playoffs, and, you know, once they're in there, they're a tough team to play. Coming in at number 9, I have the Dolphins. You know, they lost in that snow game, or really fourth quarter snow game against the Bills. A couple of drop passes in that game, a couple of missed opportunities on defense. You know, they really you know, had a chance. It was really like the first meeting between these two teams, except things went the Bills' way instead of the Dolphins' way. Coming in at number 8, I have the Chargers. You know, they got that win over the Titans, as I mentioned earlier. Justin Herbert delivering a big-time throw there in the closing seconds. And their defense has really stepped up over the last couple of weeks, limiting the Titans and the Dolphins. Defense for the Chargers is looking pretty good. Coming in at number 7, I have the Bengals, who now have officially taken control of the AFC North. You know, they're ahead of the Ravens by a game. Ravens obviously still have the tiebreaker, but you know, the Bengals are just playing good football right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Their wide receiving trio is unstoppable. You're leaving one of those guys one-on-one at all times. This is going to be a tough team to beat, no doubt. Coming in at number 6, I have the Cowboys, who lost in overtime to the Jaguars due to that pick 6. You know, OBJ is expected to sign with them at some point during this week. This team has a very loaded wide receiver core. Defense, though, definitely struggled against the Jaguars, but I still think that the Achilles heel of this team is going to be Dak Prescott. Coming in at number 5, I have the 49ers. They were able to get the win over the Seahawks. Brock Purdy going into an environment like that and winning the game. George Kittle had a big game. Charvarius Ward was able to shut down DK Metcalf, which was pretty impressive. You know, the 49ers are right now as hot as anybody. Coming in at number 4, I have the Vikings, who were able to make that amazing comeback, as I mentioned, against the Colts. That was a very impressive win. I mean, when I was watching the game the first couple of quarters, you know, it didn't even seem like the Colts were just outdoing the Vikings. It was really just the Vikings beating themselves. You know, the block punt, the pick six, the fumbles. They were just beating themselves. You could tell they clearly are a better team, but they were just beating themselves. But when even knowing that when it was 33-0, I'm thinking, yeah, it doesn't matter. Maybe they can make it sound more respectable. But there's no way they come back and win this game. And the fact that they were able to rally and score 39 points in that second half, including overtime, I mean, that's really impressive if you really think about it. I mean, that was a very impressive moral win for the Vikings, and that was not a game you want to lose. I mean, they already have the division wrapped up pretty much. Not really a concern with that, but just in a sense of you don't want to lose this game, man. They got it done. That was a very impressive win for the Vikings. Biggest comeback, largest comeback in NFL history. Maybe not the greatest, considering a couple of things, but it was mathematically the greatest. What an amazing comeback there. Coming in at number 3, I got my Kansas City Chiefs. That was maybe the most ugliest win I've seen for this Chiefs team in a while. But hey, it's better than a loss to the Texans. But going into overtime with those guys is rough. I get the Texans played the Cowboys tough the week before, but I hold the Chiefs to a higher standard. And that was just, I don't know what the defense was struggling with there. And the offense, no fault of Patrick Mahomes, a couple of drop passes, a couple of bad calls, and it kept the Texans in the game, but it is what it is. They held on, won the game, and that's what matters. Coming in at number 2, I have the Bills. The Bills right now, you got to hand it to them, beating the Dolphins like that. It was a game they could have easily lost, but they were able to pull through it despite being down at multiple points in that game. Chiefs and Bills and Bengals are definitely the big 3 of the AFC right now. I still think the Chiefs are the best team of the 3. I gotta put the Bills ahead of them for now, mainly because they just got off of a bigger win at the same record, and they have the number 1 seed advantage. And then coming in at number 1, no other than the Eagles. They were struggling a bit there with the Bears, but they were able to get the win. And yeah, comment down below what you guys think about all this. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.